Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. In today's video, I want to share an interview that I did with Alex Heiden, who is a young entrepreneur and a no-code SaaS influencer, I would say. You've probably seen him on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or maybe even TikTok, talking about the potential of building no-code softwares, especially with AI. He's actually been able to exit 2 of his softwares, and now he's been building a huge newsletter around no-code SaaS. Now, I know this isn't entirely relevant to e-commerce, which is the main talking point of our channel, but as I've mentioned multiple times, I want to expand our reach. I want to be able to talk about other business models as well. And the great thing about this interview, as you'll see, is that we actually were able to tie it all into e-commerce, and it was an incredible conversation. We got some really, really good ideas rolling. So I guarantee that you will get some value from this interview. Now, before we begin, if you appreciate these interviews and you want to support the channel, then use the Shopify link in the description to start your very own Shopify store for only $1 a month. It's an insane deal. So check that out. And also check out the Ecom Lab. It's a research community and incubator. It's incredible. And we actually have a live call today at noon. We do these frequently. There's a ton of other things that come with it, but check that out in the description as well. And without further ado, here's the interview. All right, perfect. Well, Alex, I appreciate your time. And honestly, I've been wanting to do this for 2 reasons. One, obviously to connect with you because I've been seeing what you're doing on social media and it's very, very interesting. And second, because I've also been very interested in this no code revolution, and especially with AI and everything and all of its developments, I've been really just curious. So this will be very interesting for anybody watching. Obviously, my channel is mainly about e-commerce and Shopify businesses, but there's so many potential integrations that I think this will be immensely valuable. So just to get started, Alex, so I know a little bit about your journey, but could you just get me up to date on like your journey with no code and business as a whole?
So here's like my elevator pitch. 2019, I tried to start an ecom like everyone does, failed all of 2019, lost all my money to Facebook ads. So 2020, I started as an online sales rep, which worked, started making money, went from online sales rep while playing college tennis at St. Louis University to running a sales agency. So like my clients would outsource sales calls to me, I'd outsource them to another sales rep, and we'd split the commission. Then that turned into freelance sales recruitment business of like business owners paid me a flat rate to find them sales reps. And then finally that turned into, in 2021, that turned into Closify, which was a hiring platform to hire sales reps, which was my introduction to no code. Built Closify for 2 years. So again, I started in February 2021. I exited majority of the company, and I made the agreement in February of 2023. The deal actually closed in March. And then I also, in that 2-year time period, I started and exited another no-code company called Trackify. And then since I made the deal to exit Closify in February of 2023, I've been all in on the no-code space. You know, obviously with the personal brand, I just acquired a no-code platform. I'm in the process of acquiring another. So I'm just all in on the no-code AI space now.
That's so cool. Amazing. So that's actually very, very interesting. And I'm going to try to unpack that a little bit because
Yeah.
I actually thought I didn't know your background too much. And I figured you were like, a coder, some sort of software engineer, or like some sort of computer science person. I feel like that's what everybody thinks when you think of like coding or software businesses. It's like there's some sort of software engineer behind it. Whereas in your case, it's actually just a regular ecom kid and then moved into like sales and, then eventually figured out sort of how to arbitrage this opportunity. That's actually super cool. So what were you doing in ecom? Just like running ads, like trying to start a drop shipping store, a brand, or what were you doing?
Yeah, I was trying to drop ship. I mean, it was 2019, right? It's kind of like it wasn't like early days, like it wasn't like, 2016, 2017, but I had some like people that I knew that were doing it. And I mean, I was doing a horrible job at it. Like my stores looked ugly. I had no idea how to run ads. The creatives I was using was horrible. I mean, just like no clue what I was doing, right? And I remember it's so funny. I bought the first ecom course. It was like the first ad I saw. I was like, oh, like this guy sells a course, like it must be good. And I bought it. It was horrible, you know what I mean?
That's so
Um,
funny.
and but it got me exposed to online business. Like, I did learn like the very basic fundamentals of business. But yeah, I mean, ecom, it didn't work out for me.
That's
And I
funny.
didn't have much money to like spend on Facebook ads anyways.
Yeah, but it taught you the fundamentals, which I that's exactly what happened to me. Is like I saw an ad. It was like a Ty Lopez ad with another dude that was doing like a print on demand course, and this was like so long ago, and I was like, huh, this
Mhm.
must be good. I'll buy it. And even though it was terrible, it got me like my start, and I learned some
Right.
fundamentals. And I think that's really all you need to kind of start building stuff. And then you just catch the bug of like, oh, okay, I'll keep building
Yeah.
here and there. But I love how you were resourceful enough to like transition into something that made sense, like sales. So, how did you have any other sales experience before you transitioned into that, or that was like your first time too?
Nothing. And so it was actually crazy. So like like I said, I burnt all my money trying ecom, and I had bought I think I bought 2 courses on ecom. And funny enough, it was this guy that I met on Twitter, shout out Caden, that was like, you could be the one like selling these courses over the phone instead of being the one buying them and getting a commission on that. And I was like, well, I could sell them because like I just bought them. So I understand like why. And
Mm,
so my first gig ever was this $250 Amazon FBA course. It's like similar enough to drop shipping, of course. And
right.
I mean, I had no sales experience. I had no idea what I was like doing, but I was still closing like, I mean, granted, it was $250, so it's not impressive, but I was closing 60% with like no sales training ever. Cause like I just understood like, oh, I'm talking to another 18-year-old kid that wants to get out of college and be financially free. And so no sales experience whatsoever, but I just kind of like understood the basic fundamental of everyone's at point A and they want to get to point B, and like, what we're selling is bridging that gap.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I mean, that's the same thing with any like product for ecom, for any software. Ultimately, that's kind of what you're trying to do. So
Right.
I like how you broke that down to just like, yeah, it's just point A to point B. That's what you're bridging. So now, fast forward a little bit later. Okay. So you started doing those sales and you realized, oh, well, this is kind of easy. Like, I understand the point A to point B. So I can just hire somebody now to put in place. So now you're the middleman to the close. How did that happen? Like that's so interesting.
So it was less about me like being smart and being like, oh, this is like a more leveraged business model at the time. Like I wasn't doing it at the time because I thought it was smart. It was literally because I didn't have the time. So like I said, I was playing tennis for St. Louis University while being a full-time student. I was in like 18 credit hours my freshman year. Um,
Damn.
and so like my day was from like 5 a.m. because we had 6 a.m. practice till like midnight. And I like this was like I wasn't even using Calendly at the time. Like I was like in my client's DMs and I would just text them and I would be like, yo, I have like a 15-minute window here. Like if you want to hop on, like I'd be hopping on calls like 10 p.m. at night on like a Friday. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
So like it was like not a sustainable way to live of like literally taking calls during any break that I had. And so I was like, dude, I need someone to help me because like I just can't keep doing this. And so funny enough, I texted one of my like just like hometown buddies that he was like the only other person that was like kind of interested in the whole online world. And I was like, yo, like I'll teach you sales if you're down to like take some sales calls and make a little bit of money. And he was down. And he ended up coming on board to help with Closify. And he's like my roommate here in Miami now. Like we moved to Miami together. So it's yeah, it
Cool.
was like cool full circle story.
Wow. So it just turned into a business basically. It was just like you just needed help, and then it ended up turning into a business. That's so dope.
Yeah.
That's funny. I actually played tennis too in high school, varsity tennis. It's such a fun sport. We'll have to play sometime if we ever meet up. But I'm curious now. Then you start. So that happened. You hired your friend, and then was it? Then you started like reaching out to other businesses through what you learned about cold DMs, let's say, and then try to
Mhm.
kind of pitch them on Closify.
So basically, how it all transitioned was when I was running the sales agency, I ended up having like 3 or 4 sales reps under me, working with, I don't know, 7 or 8 clients. And then all of a sudden, like everyone started to want in-house sales reps. You know what I mean? Everyone was like, well, I don't want to like work with you while you're just outsourcing the calls to like 4 other people. Like we want our own in-house people. And so that was when I started freelancing as like a recruiter. And
Mm,
then I was recruiting and I'm still in college at this time. And it's like the way I was doing it was I was finding people, training them, placing them, and then like helping the business owner like build some systems. Because basically I realized like business owners don't really know how to hire salespeople, and they don't really know how to give them like the proper sales enablement that they need to really succeed in terms of like management, training, and basically like systems, like CRM systems.
Mm.
So, to place one rep, by the time I found them, trained them up, placed them, like gave them some training on the new systems, I was like, this is taking like 4 to 6 weeks. And like, this is such a inefficient, slow process, not very scalable, super human labor intensive. And I got a consulting call with a few guys that had used sales, like the biggest sales recruiters before. And I was like, what don't you like about working with them? And I kind of like guessed it. It's like they're too expensive, they take too long, and they hated actually that they're all like inexperienced, but like trained sales reps. Like they hated that. They were like, we want experienced people that like we don't need to train them up. Like they're just ready to start ripping. And
Yeah.
so I heard those issues and I was like, that's interesting. And I was like, how do we solve these? And the only answer was like the recruitment process is like, again, you don't want to find them and then train them. So I was like, what if we find people that are already experienced in our clients' niches? And then instead of like recruiters like interview for their clients, I was like, they don't need us to interview for them. Like they're all smart enough to interview for themselves. So I was like, what if instead of us interviewing and placing for them, we let them hire themselves via a self-serve hiring platform? And so that's what we started doing with Closify. And so then the only human labor required was finding and vetting experienced sales reps, but everything else was self-serve through the platform. And we
Mm.
launched it. It was a hit. People loved it. It was faster. It was way faster. The hiring time went from like 4 to 6 weeks to like 7 to 10 days, which made us, since there was less human capital required now, way more affordable. And since we only had experienced sales reps on our platform that our human resources verified, the results were way better. And so it kind of
Mm.
just like took off and like was like hockey stick growth, like as soon as we launched the platform.
That's so cool. I'm already starting to recognize the like I love this what I love about doing these interviews with people is like dissecting their journey and like just like piecing the puzzle of their journey together. And I see like, okay, you realized, wait, this is super inefficient. By just making these little switches and changes, I'm building leverage. And maybe you didn't even think about it as leverage at the time.
Right.
And then eventually it probably led you to being like, well, what's like the ultimate form of leverage? It's just to build it, like build a software out of this,
Right.
something like that. So where now you sold that company, so you basically you did that, and then you just scaled it up, continued to work on it, sold it. What did
Yeah.
that look like? How did you find a buyer? Like what did that entail?
Super interesting process. Learned a lot during it. So I first started entertain acquisition offers in August of 2022.
Mm.
And it was through acquire.com. Got tons of interest. They're all family office, private equity. And we got a lot of LOIs. And luckily, my business partner was like, yo, like, make sure you get a lawyer to like read these over, yada, yada, yada. Like, don't just go like trying to like look through these yourself and think you're going to understand everything, which was a really good call. Really good call. So if anyone's like looking to sell their first company right now, like get a lawyer. It's like, it's worth it. And it's because a lot of the LOIs that would come across, he'd be like, oh, like this term right here is like really ambiguous. Like they could screw you over here. Or
Is
like
LOI basically like terms of the
letter
payment?
of intent. So
Oh,
basically,
letter of intent. Okay.
it basically outlines their offer. And then like all the terms, like, how long will the due diligence period be? And so it's like a big thing is like, it's really unattractive if it's like going to take us, it does take a while, but like sometimes people just have like unnecessarily long due diligence processes where they're just, I mean, it's like, of course you should do due diligence. Like you want to know what company you're buying, like what the team is, of course, all these things, but like sometimes it's a little excessive. Um, and so none of those offers we felt like comfortable taking, of like really passing it off to someone that's like really gonna have like the company's best interest in heart, and is like we like trust them to like grow it into the company. We know it can't be right. And they're all like full buyouts. Like I would sell 100% of the company, like I'd be out of it. And so I wasn't really liking all those offers that were coming through, because I wanted to stay on as a minority. Because again, I still believe in the company. I
Mm-hmm.
love the company. It's just I wanted to move, and this we can segue into this later, but I believed I was ready to like move into like a more leveraged way of doing business that would like need more capital from myself. So anyways, eventually one of our problems was honestly like a lack of sales reps. Cause like I said, we only took experienced sales reps. And so it was like we were scaling so fast that it was hard to keep up on the recruitment side. And so I reached out to just one of my buddies here in Miami that has, one of the biggest sales education programs. And I was like,
Ooh,
yo, do you think there's something that we could come to a deal with here, basically?
that's
And
clever, bro. That's a
and it
good
was
person to like hit up.
right. It's like, I've known him since 2020. So like, he's like one of my friends. Like we hang out, like trust him. Like I know he's a smart entrepreneur. It's actually funny. I sold my other company to him that I said like was like a 5-month journey from like start to exit. I sold that to him too. And he did a really good job with it. So I was like, I know he's like competent. Like I know he does a good job. He's a really bright and talented entrepreneur. And he was like, yeah, I think this would be a really big win-win for both of us. Let's just see what we can come up with that's a win for both of us. And so we came out with the deal where I get to keep minority equity, which is something that was really important to me. It was super fast to close. Like by the time we like shook hands, actually closed, it was probably like a month. And so yeah, luckily I was able to sell it through my network, which was really cool because I didn't have to pay any broker fees. It was way faster, and I got a deal that was more in line with what I actually wanted.
Oh, that's so good to hear, actually, because I mean, see, like for me, I've had a similar um, sort of journey in the sense that like I've done a lot of things that seem super smart now, but it wasn't like really super intentional at the moment.
Right.
Like building a personal brand, for example. I just like
Yeah.
thought it was fun to make videos. It was interesting. But now I feel like I'm in a super leveraged position to be able to, yeah, like, but I didn't think, oh, well, I could just sell a business to like, one of the people that I know. I would be really scared to do that. Like from, I don't know, that's just like what I would think. But knowing that you've done it successfully kind of motivates me a little bit more to do that. But so you said you were ready now. One of the reasons you sold was because you were ready to move into a higher leverage position where you needed more capital. So are you saying basically you wanted to start like acquiring companies or like becoming an investor in companies?
Yeah. So I've always had like the end goal in mind of like private equity, like venture capital, like investing in companies or buying companies. Like if you look at a lot of like the richest people in the world, like their most successful companies normally aren't the ones they started. It's normally the ones they acquired.
Right.
Um, and so, and honestly, like the last like, month basically gave me like the certainty that I needed, that I made the right decision. I actually watched Alex Becker's video yesterday. It's like your first few businesses you really shouldn't have for that long, because like you're still learning. Like you don't like have the skill sets and the talents to take like your first or second company to like 100 million like he did with Hyros. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so it's like when I started Closify, I was still a 20-year-old kid in a college dorm room. Like, you know what I mean? Like I learned so much in the last 2 years of growing it. And um it kind of turned into like golden handcuffs. Like it paid me well, but I didn't love it anymore. And I didn't like making content around it. And it just like I just felt like I was ready for like the next like challenge kind of. And I didn't exactly know what it was. And then it ended up being like really divine timing of like literally like the deal closed. And then I think it was literally like the next week, my social medias blow up around no code. Like such divine timing. And so then I'm like, okay, like how do I monetize this new audience that I have, right? Because I went from 1,000 followers to like, now 72,000 in the last like 40 days. But I think I gained like 20,000 followers in like a week or something.
Damn.
And so I was like, how do I monetize this like newly found audience? And like the first, I was like, I'm gonna start like a no code development agency and like basically pass the work off to my in-house dev team. And so then I was like, well, how does this become more leveraged? It's like we run it like a venture studio. Like we take equity in the top products that we believe in. So that's kind of like part of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then it's also like now that I have this brand, I'm getting like, normally the hardest part about like private equity and venture capital from anyone that you talk to, like the two hardest parts are deal flow, like actually finding the deals. And then the second part is getting them to choose you to acquire it. Right. And it's like my personal brand is both of those things for me. Like
Right.
multiple people have approached me, they're like, hey, I'm selling my company. It plays into your ecosystem. And since you have the biggest brand in the no code space, I want you to be the one to acquire it. Right. And so like I acquired a company last week that it's like now it's like Closify, but for no code developers. And so it's like now I
Damn.
have all the lessons that I learned from running a marketplace with Closify, and I know all the things that I wish I would have known that I started Closify, but now for this new company called Rolade, and I have a huge personal brand, not huge, I shouldn't say, but like pretty big and fastly growing personal brand to like jumpstart it. And
Right.
so it's just been like super synergistic, and like I'm launching a new software company from scratch in like 2 weeks. I'm trying to finalize the acquisition of another company right now. And it's like now it's like a big thing that I didn't have at Closify was I didn't have an operator. Like I'm a visionary, I'm really good at driving traffic, but I didn't have someone that I can say like, yo, this is where I want to go. Like I need you to just do. Like I didn't have that. And so
Yeah.
now I'm just focusing on pushing traffic to all these different companies, and I'm bringing on an operator to all of them to just be like, yo, whoever we need to hire, like hire them. Like, let's just do. And like, we're just moving at such rapid speed right now that I wasn't able to when I was running Closify. And so just like the last like couple weeks, just like cemented that I made the perfect decision for
That's
myself.
amazing, bro. Well, I'm happy to hear that. And did you have an operator for Closify, or was it all you basically running the whole show?
We didn't have an operator from like the standpoint of like making new hires and like we had like a we had like it was mainly just like pushing traffic, and then we had like a project manager that would help like vet people, and we had like a sales manager, sales team, but like we didn't have someone that was like, yo, like we had a fractional guy for a little bit that was okay, that it would be like, yo, like this is like our end goal, like basically like reverse engineer it and just like do to get us there, like track everything, hire people, like give them a budget and they just go, you know what I mean? Like we didn't
Yeah.
have that type of guy.
That's so funny that you say that because, and it's really interesting. There's so many weird things in life. Like, for example, the fact that you even hit me up for this, because I feel like I'm very similar to what you said about I'm kind of a visionary. I feel like I have great ideas, but I lack this, like, I need somebody to help me operate all of
Well,
this behind the scenes. And early last year, I was able to find that person, and it just made like the biggest difference in the world. So I can totally understand where you're coming from. Now, you're building a no code personal brand. Let me ask you something a little bit more relevant for my audience, just to, I don't
of
want to be
course.
too selfish here and only ask questions that are relevant to me. But how would you apply what you know about no code, let's say, to Shopify or e-commerce? Like, let's say somebody has an e-commerce brand, or they're thinking of launching something related to e-commerce, but they're not, maybe they haven't had too much success yet. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you guys like a little like SaaS type idea that I've thought of for the ecom space, because I have a lot of buddies in ecom, and it's like e-commerce is amazing. Like again, in Becker's YouTube video today, or yesterday, he's like, eventually, you need to get into businesses that don't rely on someone's time. And he basically said either info, e-commerce, SaaS. And so it's like e-com's great. Obviously, the people that I know in e-com, the only thing they'll complain about is there's like supply chain logistics, right? And like stuff like that can be a pain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's like whether you could either build your own internal solutions that just build it for yourself or for your own brand, or you could build it for yourself and then sell it to other people. But it's like something that I've been waiting for someone to do is so you can fine tune models, GPT-3 models, which basically means you're taking data sets of like prompts and completions, and you're feeding them into the model, and then the model's learning how to put out new text based off of what you just trained it with or taught it. And so I'm waiting for someone that's going to put like an AI like a fine-tuned sales rep on their like product pages, right?
Mm.
Once someone is able to fine-tune like an AI chatbot that can increase conversion rate on your product pages, that person is going to be a very, very wealthy individual. Like from someone that's like way more in the ecom world than me, like would that not be a game changer to have like an AI
Yeah.
chatbot rep constantly on your product page?
The reason why that would be so powerful, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but already having a chat bot on your store, or just like a chat that somebody can utilize, increases your conversion rate. Even if people don't necessarily use it, I think just the fact that it's there makes people trust the website more. It just makes it more, it shows that there's more customer care. But yeah, if you have, it is kind of inconvenient to have somebody 24/7 replying to people. So having a chatbot would be so sick. I would love that.
Now, here's the other thing that you can do, just like internally, or again, you could sell this to other people if you want, is you can cut your customer support costs by a ton because you can do the same thing and you can train a customer support chatbot. And so then you can go hire whatever VA you're paying and you can save money there. I saw someone, I saw it on Twitter. I don't remember who, but they said they cut their customer service costs by $700 a month, and the AI performed better than their VA, and like decrease the refund request rate by like I forget what percent, but they're like it's performing better and saving me money.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, already what I've done, I mean, it's not really that revolutionary, but everybody on my team uses ChatGPT religiously. And I feel like
Yep.
it's allowed every team member to be higher leverage. So it's like they can output like 100x what they could have
Yep.
before and a better. And it's made a huge difference. I think, have you read this book, the Naval
No,
book?
I have.
Oh, well, you should. It talks a lot about all these things that we've mentioned. I mean, and that goes for other people too that are watching that maybe don't really understand like these things about leverage. And like you said, labor is kind of like the worst kind of leverage because just having more
Yeah.
people, it's expensive. It's like people are tricky. Human behavior is like irrational a lot of times. So it's
Hmm.
like it's so much better if you can kind of train your team, like keep your team lean and just make them super high leverage with technology, for example,
Yeah.
especially now with AI. So that's super cool. Can I ask you this? So I have a community. It's a research community. It's also like education. So it's sort of a mastermind, but it's research based. Like the premise of it is that I don't want there to be. It's not about gurus. It's about data, and it's a data driven community.
Hmm.
Um, I want to create some sort of so it's on Discord, right? And I would love to be able to integrate ChatGPT, but a trained ChatGPT for like a specific. So, for example, there's like investing stuff. Like for example, with the recent Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting, we like
Hmm.
broke that entire thing down into like bite-sized points and like posted it in there. I would love to be able to do this like at scale because right now we have like researchers doing it and it's amazing. These people are like super kind and like amazing. But I would love to be able to also have a section where it's like literally just a bot doing this shit.
So can I tell you what I'm building?
Sure, yeah, let's hear it.
So it is hard to fine tune models, and so the hardest part is like I don't know if you've heard this. So there's like Fortune 500 companies that are hiring prompt engineers. Like literally people that just like they are the best at writing prompts for like Chat GPT because obviously the better the prompt, the better output you get.
Mm-hmm.
And so average people don't know how to properly write prompts and completions, and they don't know how to fine tune a model because it normally requires some level of coding or basic coding understanding. So the new software that we're building, that I think it's going to be ready in like 2 weeks or so. I don't know when this will go out. It is a software that it's like having a 6 or 7 figure salary prompt engineer in your back pocket to help you create prompts and completions for whatever type of model you want to fine tune.
Mm.
And then the software will actually fine tune the model for you. So you won't have to know any of the coding basics needed to fine tune a model. So, we could definitely talk about how you can, use this to build fine tune models for whatever use case it is that you want much faster than, again, having the whole research team.
Yeah, okay. That'd be awesome. So let me ask you this. This is a little bit changing course slightly, but it sounds like you are not afraid of sort of spreading your focus a little bit. How do you manage that? Like how are you keeping that in mind, like this balance of like continuously building new things and also maybe kind of having
Absolutely.
some focus? Like what does your day look like?
So incredible point. Um, I've been pretty pro doing one thing like my whole life. Like Closify was basically my sole focus for 2 years. But here's the thing with Closify, it was like we had cold email campaigns running. We had a sales team on LinkedIn. We had a cold calling team. We had an SEO agency. We had a project manager. Like we had all these moving parts. With all these companies now, it's just my brand to software companies with like a dev team for each respective one that's handling bugs. So
Mm.
my day to day is not crazy. And like I said, I'm hiring an operator to build out all the teams for each one. So all I do now, like all I'm willing to do, I won't do anything else, is I drive eyeballs. I push traffic. I drive eyeballs, and operators building out teams, and operators managing teams, and operators taking, the day-to-day meetings. Like, I just push traffic, and I'm focusing on building my brand and holding the most leveraged position I possibly can. And there's some other like little cheeky ways that I'm working on, of like kind of like building an army of people to like really help grow these companies. But so it's like my day-to-day is not crazy. And it's like I've just got the right people in the right places that, it's able to run very easily, even though it's going to be like, it's going to be like 4 core companies.
Okay. So yeah, that's not too crazy. That's more or less how I operate. It's like 3 core companies. And I've had that issue of like feeling
Mhm.
bad of having 3 companies. I'm like, well, like this feels kind of stupid, but at the same time, I love all of them. And the way I
Right.
think of it is like I've seen this chart that's like, the energy, it's like energy is a circle, and then you're spreading all your energy into a lot of different things, or you could just put all your energy into this one thing and it goes crazy. But the way that I visualize what I'm doing, and I guess what you're doing as well, is like this line of energy that's like all your focus. The other lines are kind of like hovering around it, and it's almost like a super ball of energy going forward, because it's like an
Yeah.
ecosystem. Uh,
Hmm.
that's the way that I've tried to approach it or make sense of it, is that I'm building an ecosystem rather than,
Yep.
a ton of different companies that don't even like that make no sense when put together. So that's super cool. Have you ever, do you know Andrew Wilkins or
Don't
Wilkinson maybe? I don't even know.
The name might be familiar, but I can't picture him now.
Because he's like this guy that I saw on the My First Million podcast a long time ago, and he's from Canada, and he basically created like like a holding company that creates and buys out businesses, and this is exactly what he talks about all the time. He's like, I love building businesses, so I just buy out a business and I'll hire a CEO for it and
Yep.
incentivize them properly. And that's how they have like 20 different companies. They make like 200 million a year, and they just went public for like $1 billion valuation. And I was like, man, that's super cool. I'd like to do that someday as well. But in his day to day, it seems it's not that crazy. It's like exactly what you're saying. It's like his main goal. I mean, he doesn't have this. Actually, his personal brand is pretty big now through that podcast. So he's pretty smart with how he uses that. Um, but his goal is not to just be working all the time. In fact, it's almost like the opposite. It's like
Yep.
not working at all and letting people do their jobs so
Yep.
that, things can grow seamlessly.
And you made a great point there of like, he's not the CEO of those companies. He's like the owner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like when I say like I was ready to move from like a more leveraged position, I was the CEO of Closify. Like I was managing all those different departments. Like I was trying to do some of the operations. Now it's like I'm the owner of these companies, but I'm not the CEO of these companies. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
maybe from a visionary perspective, I am like, sure. But like there's basically operators running all these things, and I'm just the owner of it now. And so that's like the next level of the game that I think like all of us have to aspire to get to, because of course, like I couldn't be the CEO of 4 companies. Like, no way. Like they would all just do very mediocre. But I can be like
Right.
the owner of 4 companies.
True. No, that's a great point. That's so I love talking about ideas like this. So we'll have to do this again in the future. But
Yeah.
what do you what's something that's like, I mean, obviously you have your 4 companies now, or 4 core companies, but outside of that, what do you think is another like idea that people could take advantage of? Like, let's say someone who's just starting, or not just starting, but at the very least, understands business at a fundamental level. What do you think is a good opportunity for them in what you're doing?
Man, I love B2B SaaS. Like I love B2B SaaS because like, you look at all these business owners and it's like their tech stacks get pretty expensive. It's like, right? It's like a great example is instantly.ai. They're like a email sending or cold email sending platform that we use at Closify. And it is like, I don't care what the economy is doing. Like cold email is like one of our like biggest levers, like one of our biggest ways to get clients. So it's like Closify will never stop paying instantly. You know what I mean? Like it is such a
Mm-hmm.
sticky business that like we need it. It doesn't matter what happens, like we need it. And so we've been paying them whatever it is, like $100 a month for, a year and a half. And they went from like 0 to $5 million in annual recurring revenue in literally like 1 year.
That's
Like
crazy.
B2B software is like I love it, and there's so many like different ways that you can go about doing it. Like and so like I don't have necessarily like any like one idea that you can all capitalize on, but like a way that I love to get ideas now is to go to acquire.com or like formerly micro acquire, and I'll filter to software companies in the B2B space that are over like 100 to 200K in annual recurring revenue, just to like get some inspiration of like what they might be. And I remember one that I found a while ago was like it was like a cold email finder. So it's like, say you find like a CEO and you like need to find their email. It was like a extension or tool to find that guy's email. And obviously there's tons of them out there. There's like Snob, there's Hunter.io, etc.
Hunter.io, I've used that one before.
Yeah. And it's like you search one of these tools, then like say you do like Hunter.io, like G2 reviews, right? And you scroll to like what people dislike, and you look for like recurring themes, like what people dislike about it, or maybe like a feature that they would really like. And so then I would build basically like the same thing, but I would solve that recurring complaint and your MVP, and then like that's your marketing angle for it, right? So it's
Right.
and that's kind of like what Instantly did. So before Instantly, there was like Mailshake and Lemlist, and they would charge you per inbox. And so it would get really, really expensive. And they learned that people hate that it's charged per inbox. So Instantly came in and they said unlimited inboxes for $97 a month. And they just grabbed a ton of market share.
Right. That's so cool. So how let me ask you this because this is a common question that I get a lot. So I'm sure this is a common question people will have after watching this. People always ask me, Ari, I have $1,000. Is this enough to get into e-commerce?
Yeah.
What do you think is like? I mean, you could basically build a no-code SaaS with zero, right? Or at least like what's the minimum you would say?
Essentially, yes. So it's like I did a little challenge. Like I built something on Softer.io, and Softer.io has a literally like a free plan, and then I think up that it might be either 25 or 50. I can't remember. And Softer's like one of those that's like easy enough that like literally like it's almost like Shopify. Like it's like drag and drop to like build stuff.
Mm,
Uh, so yes, if you have $1,000 that you could get into it. But if someone literally only has $1,000, like if $1,000 is like all you have and you don't have a lot of cash flow like coming in, it's like software takes a lot longer to like cash flow than like starting an agency. You know what I mean?
right.
It's like you close an agency client and they might be paying you $2,000 a month. You close a software client and they might be paying you like $20 a month. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
you need to get a lot of those before it's like able to pay your bills. And then it's like you're obviously not going to like distribute like 100% of profit to yourself. Like you got to keep some of the business to grow the business, right? And so if they need cash flow, like all they have is like $1,000. Like I would say you should probably go start an agency or like do something that's gonna be cash flow positive a little faster. But like if you were like dead set on it, like yes, you technically like could start with $1,000.
Yeah, that's a great answer because I always tell people the same thing. It's like I wouldn't start with just 1,000. I would like if I had 1,000 in a job, yeah, sure, do it. Like for
Right.
e-commerce, I'm saying because it will take money, like you're saying, to like get it started. You're obviously gonna make some mistakes along the way as well. It's you're gonna have to continue to reinvest to grow the business. It's not like you're just gonna be able to quit your job or like make a
Right.
living right away. That's super 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 rare. So I agree. An agency model is very good in that regard because it's like you just make your money up front most of the time, or at the very least, like it's you don't have any expenses. Let me ask you this because I heard about somebody doing this in the past, so I want to see what you think about this and if it's something that could be done or automated through software. I heard a long time ago of somebody that took they had an Upwork listing for like a data entry job, like for some
Mhm.
bullshit company, and they were able to actually take like 10 of those jobs and outsource
Yeah.
it to like VAs and kind of arbitrage that data entry wage, I guess. What is that something that could be like somebody could create a platform for that, right? I mean, now that I'm talking to you about Closify, for example.
Yeah, there's definitely some like cheeky like way that you could kind of like get like hacky with it, and like I don't know if like Upwork has like a public API or not, but I don't know if you could like in theory like send that like job listing into your own platform, like mark it up a little bit, and then like bring your own VAs on the other side. I'm sure there's a way that you could hack it together.
Okay. So I was just trying to see how you think through these things because I'm a noob when it comes to software, but I feel like it's something I should keep in mind as I mean I'm not gonna like divert my focus from what I'm doing too much, but
Right.
I just think it's so valuable to learn. I'm continuously learning all the time, and this is definitely something I've been super interested in as of late. So um, now, when it comes to software, you said it usually takes a long time to actually, or a relatively long time to cash flow. But this is maybe why B2B SaaS, like you said, is really attractive
Mhm.
because businesses tend to have more money. Is that one of the
Yep.
factors that you kind of look
And
into? Like, oh, you could have a higher price point for your
exactly.
software.
Exactly. So it's like B2C, it's like, it's often lower ticket, the churn's often higher. A great example is like some of my buddies are running like these new like AI like homework softwares like
I saw
students.
that. I saw Oliver's
Yeah.
study
And it's
buddy.
so and it's so funny. It's Oliver's like they had so many like cards decline on a 99-cent trial. Like stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um and what I love about B2B too is it's like you can do like per seat based pricing. So it's like say you're selling a software to like businesses with sales teams, right? And it's like they need a seat for every sales rep they have, right? If your if your software is $50 a month per seat and they got 10, 20 sales reps, like, and you start getting into those enterprise level clients, it's like,
Right.
all of a sudden you can be signing clients for a couple hundred or a couple $1,000 a month, which obviously that scales way faster.
Yeah, true. And this is basically what Becker did with Hyros and what Triple Whale
Exactly.
is doing now with. So let me ask you that because I'm actually kind of curious. I use Triple Whale. I have an agency and some like internal brands as well, and we use Hyros for all. Or sorry, Triple Whale for all of that. But part of me is like, I feel like I mean these guys built an amazing platform. Like the UI of it is very intuitive. It's clean. It kind of gives you everything you need. But when it comes to the actual tracking, which is like you're paying like $200 a month just for that alone, and then the dashboard is another $100 a month. It seems like they're just using like Google Analytics UTM tracking links. Like it doesn't seem like anything too complex. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe I'm just being naive. But what do you think about the business of tracking, like media buying tracking, like on Meta, for example?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely been proven, right? So I always talk about this. I love businesses with competition because it shows there's product market fit, it shows there's demand. So it's like the fact that Hyros and Triple Whale are doing so well, like proves that it's a valuable space to get into and that it's also a severe problem that like brands and companies are willing to pay a lot of money to solve that problem because again, ad attribution being, not correct is a big
Mm-hmm.
problem. You're spending money on ads that, aren't actually your best ads, but you think they are. So it's a big problem.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't know. To me, it seems like they just built a really pretty like front end to the solution, which is really just Google Analytics UTM tracking links. But I could be wrong. I really have no idea how those businesses
So
operate in the back
I
end.
don't I don't know how they did the back end either. Like I don't know if they're actually like doing some crazy like back end solution for better tracking or not. But what I can tell you is these types of softwares do well all the time. And it's literally just like almost exactly what you said, like almost just like better data visualization. So like
Mm-hmm.
I know this one guy with a software company that all it does is like one centralized dashboard to like basically manage like all your financials. Like I'm talking like how much do you have in your bank account, how much do you have in your brokerage account, like um it'll connect like your QuickBooks. So it's basically just API connections, like again to your bank, to your brokerage, like to your QuickBooks, and it basically just displays your like all of your finances in one dashboard, and it makes it pretty with graphs and all these like things over time.
That's so
And
sick.
it's like the only difference is like instead of having to sign into three different things, it's all in one place, and people pay it money for that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of software companies that are literally almost like literally just like a dashboard that connects to a few APIs and people pay for it.
Yeah, that's so true. And I mean, that's why I think this is such a valuable interview because a lot of my audience is like obsessed with dropshipping because of the ease of like, you basically just build, like you said, in a way, it's kind of similar. You build a prettier site than like, what you would find, like what you would find on Alibaba, let's say. and it's
Hmm.
just like more consumer focused as opposed to more like B2B focused. So you could do the same thing, especially nowadays with no code and all these different APIs through, from ChatGPT or OpenAI, whatever. Midjourney, I kind of want to talk about that with you because they have been such a dope company. I mean, they like, I'm pretty sure it's a small team, no funding. They just sent it and like scaled ridiculously big. And
Hmm.
it's all on Discord. Like it's a Discord company. How does
Wow.
that even work?
Yeah, I honestly haven't played around with Midjourney as much. I know what it is, but I mean, I can see the use cases right there. I mean, are you guys using that for creatives?
I'm I mean, I'm using it for fun more than anything. Like I'm not actually making creatives for clients or for our own brand yet, but I've
Okay.
been messing around. I mean, I've made like art with it. So I haven't actually used it like for commercial purposes yet, but it's just so cool.
So it's like, I guess here's like another little like hacky like SaaS idea for your audience that someone brought this up to me that I think they were doing it. Um, but it was literally like, it was almost like selling ad creatives like as a service, but like fulfilled through Midjourney.
Mm,
And they would basically like get it was just like a type form of like, all the questions about their brand or whatever, and like, what their product is. And then they would get this information. And then they would have like one like expert, like prompt writer, like prompt engineer on their team, if you will, that would then write a prompt for Midjourney to create an ad creative. And then they would send those ad creatives um to the client. But they did it on a subscription basis where like you would pay X monthly for like X creatives a month.
that's so smart. Yeah, I would love to do something like that. Man, there's so many potential ideas that we could have because I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I've been kind of navigating this world a bit while still, focusing on my thing. But my main business is at this point our agency and our community. So
Hmm.
all of these things integrate so well.
Right.
This is really interesting, though. I really like that idea, especially because creatives are really like for media buying. It's the number one thing, and I've
Oh
actually
yeah.
been seeing Mid-Journey creatives already for like I saw it for a maybe it wasn't a software, but it was like a news publication company. Like they
Yeah.
send you news to. It's kind of like a newsletter, I guess, in a way. Uh,
Hmm.
and they had a Mid-Journey creative of a guy that was like, it was like stop doom scrolling all day. Uh, I think that's what it
Yeah.
was. It was so good though, and I loved it. So I'm definitely gonna keep that idea in mind. I'll probably make some creatives today with
Yeah.
Mid-Journey now that I'm looking into it. How do you? So what do you think about Discord software businesses? Because I mean that's what Midjourney is in a way. Like, does Discord have a lot of capabilities? I guess to be able to like integrate with software ideas.
I think it does. I don't know what it is. I've just never been a big Discord guy. Like I know a lot of people are obsessed with Discord. I just like I've never been able to get into it. It just seems like for me it was always like another like app to check with like messages waiting for me. So
Mm,
I didn't like it because it's like I have people texting me, I have people emailing me, like I have people on Slack, like
yeah, Slack.
you know what I mean? So like it just turned into like another one of those apps that I would like dread checking. So I've like never been a big Discord guy, but I do know it has a lot more capabilities than Slack.
Mm.
And I believe it does have a lot of like, again, interesting, like, I know it has all this Discord bots, there's all these automations that you can create with it. So I'm sure there's tons of opportunity there.
What about Notion? Is it similar in a way? Like you can integrate
Yep.
some software into Notion?
Yep. I know a lot of people are doing a lot of Notion, automate. And that's the other thing about the no code space is they're not all like, it's not all meant to like build softwares. Like a lot of it is meant like to build automations. So like I know people that like if you want to be like a service provider, like a hot service to provide right now is like automations as a service.
Well, that's what
Like,
I want to do because that's what I'm trying to like. That's what we've been trying to do in our business. And like I mentioned, the first step was like getting everybody to use ChatGPT, and that was like insane. So the next step is like actually creating these automations. I want to do it in my business, and then eventually be able to add that as a service to our like agency,
yeah, I've
services.
um I've got it. I've got a guy that's like a wizard with automations. If you want me to like intro you after, I mean, some of the stuff he's doing, um, that he's able to like put together, have blown me away.
That'd be amazing, bro. I would love that. And I mean, I would love to continue to just stay in touch as well. Like this has been so fun, and I think funny enough, it seems like people who are alike in ways sort of somehow like get together. That's what
Yeah,
I've like kind of the vibe that I've been feeling. Everybody that I interview, it's almost like we could be good friends.
yeah.
It's just weird how that happens. But I've been seeing what you're doing on your personal brand, and it's really impressive too. Actually, let's talk about that a little bit, and then we'll wrap up.
Mhm.
So you've been blowing up, bro. Like 70K followers in the last like whatever, like 40 days. Is your strategy more or less just like posting a ton of content everywhere?
So it's kind of interesting because the first video kind of blew up on accident. And then once I saw how videos performed over time, I kind of started to understand it, I think.
Mm,
And it's just like, it's just a funnel at the end of the day. It's like, it's like when you run ads, it's like you have top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel ads, right? And so I was like, this is the same thing just with organic content. So it's like when I'm filming, so I'll film like twice a week, not twice a week, sorry, twice a month, and get all my content for the month. And it's basically, it's the equivalent of like, say, I think we put out 60 pieces of content a month. And so we'll basically do like 15. So 60 divided by 4 is 15, right? So it's like, we basically do like 30 or so, or like almost like half of them are kind of like top of funnel. The number's going down a little bit now because like we're trying to nurture my audience. But when
mm,
we're starting, it'd be like 30 are like top of funnel, and then like 15 are going to be like middle of funnel, and then like 15 will be like bottom of funnel. And what I mean by that is like for me, it's like keep in mind, like if I go and make a video about drop shipping, it's like almost everyone that's like interested in drop shipping knows what it is by now. I
mm-hmm.
think there's very few people to reach now that are interested in online business that don't know what drop shipping is. But when I say SaaS, no one really knows what that is yet. And so
True.
like my top of funnel is like getting people to know what SaaS is, or get them to choose SaaS over another business model, whether it's agency, whether it's ecom. So it's like top of funnel is like what is SaaS slash like convince them to start a SaaS. Middle of funnel then is like, okay, like now how do I actually do it? Like what are the best like pricing models? Or like, how do I get ideas? So I've been putting out a lot of videos like that. So obviously,
Mm.
I gained 70,000 followers. They're like, okay, you convinced me to start a SaaS. They don't want me to keep telling them to start a SaaS. They're like, you've already convinced me. And then the bottom of funnel, it's like, I put up a story post to like, use my development agency, or, to one of my software companies, or push them to my newsletter, something like that. But just like understanding that it's a funnel and thinking about it that way really helped me, I think.
That's such good advice, actually, and that's a good breakdown uh, even for someone not building a personal brand, but like literally for their business. Like, let's say they want to post organically for their e-commerce product or their software or their agency, right? Like taking that approach and using it for your niche. That's so clever, and that I mean, I think that will definitely help people because a lot of people don't really know what to even like start with in terms of like what content to make, and everybody's making content and everybody's making
Right.
like good content. So it can be very overwhelming, I'm sure, for somebody that's just starting out. I'm
Absolutely.
lucky that I feel like I started whenever there wasn't really anybody posting content about business too much on YouTube. Um, so I think I got lucky in a way with the timing, but otherwise it might have like never happened, just because it's kind of overwhelming with everybody else
Right.
posting content. So I like that framework a lot.
Absolutely.
Sweet. Well, Alex, I appreciate your time, man. I'll post this on YouTube, and I'll also leave all your links in the description. You can send me some of the stuff that
Yeah.
you wanna have in there. But man, this was so insightful. I feel like my mind is blown with opportunities right now. I'm just like, holy shit, there's so much stuff that I need to continue to learn about. But this was super fun. I'm sure a lot of people will feel the same way.
Yeah, I appreciate it, bro. I'm really excited to see it.
Awesome. All right, bro. Well, we'll stay connected and yeah, talk soon.
All right, appreciate it, bro.
Yep. Peace.